Chosen one, this message did not reach you by coincidence. You did not simply click this video out of boredom, curiosity, or chance. Something within you was guided here, a quiet pull, a subtle nudge, a moment of stillness that led you to stop scrolling and listen. That is not random. That is alignment. When a message like this finds you, it is because your spirit is ready to remember a truth it has always carried. Deep within your soul, you have likely been asking questions you couldn't fully put into words. Why has your path felt so lonely? Why did people you once trusted fade away without explanation? Why do you often feel misunderstood, unseen, or out of place, no matter how hard you try to belong? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signals of awakening. They arise when a soul begins to outgrow the life it once knew. You were never meant to walk the same road as everyone else. While others found comfort in crowds, routines, and surface-level connections, your spirit was being prepared for something deeper. And preparation for the chosen one often looks like isolation, not because you were rejected, but because you were selected, not because you were forgotten, but because you were being set apart. Loneliness has a way of convincing you that something is wrong with you. It whispers that you are too different, too intense, too quiet, or too much. But the truth is far more powerful. The solitude you have endured was not emptiness, it was divine alignment. It was the universe, God's source. Whatever name your soul recognizes, clearing space so you could finally hear your own truth without interference. If you are honest with yourself, you may recognize that when people were constantly around, it was harder to hear your intuition. The noise of opinions, expectations, and projections drowned out your inner voice. So the divine began removing distractions. Conversations stopped. Invitations faded. Doors closed. And suddenly, you were left alone with your thoughts, your questions, and your pain. That season was uncomfortable, even heartbreaking, but it was necessary. Walking alone was not meant to break you. It was meant to strip away everything that was not truly you. Old identities you wore to be accepted, roles you played to keep the peace, attachments that kept you small. In the quiet, all of that began to fall away. And what remained was your raw, unfiltered self, your true essence. This message is coming to you now because you are at a turning point. You are beginning to realize that your isolation was not a mistake in your story, but a sacred chapter. A chapter where your spirit was strengthened, your discernment sharpened, and your connection to the divine deepened. You were not abandoned. You were being prepared. As you continue listening, you will begin to understand why walking alone was one of the greatest blessings of your journey. Why separation had to come before elevation. Why the silence you feared was actually the place where your power was formed. Stay present. Let these words settle into your spirit. What you are about to hear is not just an explanation of your past, it is a confirmation of who you are becoming. Chosen one, there is a divine reason your life shifted into isolation, even when you did not ask for it and did not understand it. What felt like loss was actually sacred selection. When the divine places a calling on a soul, it does not immediately surround that soul with applause, support, or comfort. Instead, it often removes the crowd. This is because true alignment cannot be formed in constant noise. Your isolation was not a punishment, it was a calling. There comes a moment on every awakened path when the energy around you begins to feel heavy, distracting, or misaligned. Conversations feel shallow. Environments feel draining. Relationships that once felt safe begin to feel restrictive. This is not because you have become cold or distant. It is because your spirit has begun to rise, and what once fit you can no longer contain you. The divine responds to this shift by creating space. Isolation is the divine's way of separating you from influences that would keep you operating below your true frequency. If everything had stayed the same, if the same people kept calling, the same habits stayed comfortable, the same patterns repeated, you would never have questioned who you truly are. You would have remained familiar but not fulfilled. So Spirit intervened. That is why your phone went quiet. That is why certain doors closed without explanation. That is why people you leaned on suddenly disappeared. Not because you were unworthy, but because their presence was preventing your growth. Some connections were not evil, but they were limiting. They carried versions of you that no longer matched your destiny. The divine knew that if they stayed, you would stay small. Isolation is purification. It strips away false identities, outdated beliefs, and emotional attachments that were never meant to follow you into your next season. In solitude, you are forced to confront yourself without distractions. You begin to see what was never truly yours, what you were carrying out of fear, loyalty, or habit rather than truth. This process can feel uncomfortable because it dismantles what is familiar. But what is familiar is not always what is aligned. In the stillness, something powerful begins to happen. Your intuition sharpens. Your awareness deepens. You start to notice things you once ignored, patterns in people's cycles and behavior, truths in your own emotions. The things you once chased for validation or pleasure begin to lose their appeal. This is not loss. This is elevation. Your soul is shedding what it has outgrown. When the divine isolates you, it is because your spirit needs direct access to guidance. Crowds distort intuition. Noise clouds discernment. Solitude, however, becomes the classroom where wisdom whispers. In isolation, you are taught to listen not to the world, but to your inner knowing. You begin to recognize the difference between fear and intuition, between desire and calling. Every prophet, every awakened teacher, every soul that carried light for others first walked through a season of being alone. Not because they were rejected by the world, but because they needed clarity before they could serve with truth. You are no different. Your isolation is proof that something within you is being refined. Understand this, chosen one, you were never meant to be formed in comfort. You were meant to be shaped in truth. And truth is revealed in silence. The divine reason for your isolation is simple yet profound. You were being prepared to remember who you are without the influence of who you were expected to be. Chosen one. One of the greatest spiritual laws that few truly understand is this: separation always comes before elevation. Nothing rises without first being pulled away from what holds it down. When your spirit began to awaken, life itself responded by creating distance between you and everything that could not rise with you. What felt like abandonment was actually divine rearrangement. Elevation requires a change in frequency. As your awareness expanded, your energy shifted. And when energy shifts, misalignment becomes impossible to ignore. The people, places, and patterns that once felt familiar suddenly felt heavy. Conversations drained you. Environments dulled your spirit. You may have tried to hold on, hoping things would return to how they used to be, but deep down, you knew something had changed. That change was you. Separation often arrives through loss because loss is the fastest way to loosen attachments. Relationships end without closure. Friendships fade without conflict. Opportunities disappear even when they seemed promising. These moments can feel cruel and confusing, but they are never random. The divine removes what you are too emotionally attached to release on your own. If it stayed, it would anchor you to a version of yourself you were meant to outgrow. This is why separation hurts. It challenges your sense of identity. When people leave, you are forced to ask who you are without them. When familiar paths close, you are forced to trust without certainty. Comfort is taken away not to punish you, but to expand you. Comfort keeps the soul small. Growth demands discomfort. Chosen one. Many of the betrayals you experienced were not personal, they were positional. The moment your spirit began to rise, your presence became uncomfortable to those still operating at an old frequency. Some people loved who you were but could not handle who you were becoming, so life intervened, not to isolate you forever, but to protect your evolution. Separation is also where dependency is broken. When everything you leaned on disappears, you are guided inward. You learn to rely on your intuition instead of opinions, on faith instead of reassurance, on inner peace instead of external validation. This is how spiritual strength is built. You begin to stand on your own foundation, unshaken by who stays or who leaves. Before you can walk in divine authority, you must learn to walk alone. Elevation cannot happen while you are still negotiating your worth, dimming your light, or seeking permission to be who you are. Separation removes the need to explain yourself. It teaches you that alignment is more important than approval. So if your life feels like it has been stripped down to its bare bones, understand this: you are not losing, you are rising. The separation you endured was not the end of something good, it was the beginning of something true. Elevation is near, and it requires space. Chosen one, beyond the loneliness, beyond the silence, one of the deepest wounds you have carried is the pain of being misunderstood. It is not just that people left, it is that they could not see you for who you truly are. You spoke from your heart and were met with confusion. You offered sincerity and were met with doubt. You tried to explain your inner world only to realize There was no common language. That kind of pain cuts quietly but deeply. Being misunderstood is not a flaw in you. It is a reflection of the distance between your frequency and theirs. When you are chosen, your spirit operates on a level that most people have not yet reached. You sense things others overlook. You feel beneath the surface. You question what others accept without thought. And in a world that values familiarity over truth, this makes you appear strange, intense, or different. Many times you are labeled instead of understood, too quiet, too deep, too emotional, too distant, too spiritual. But those labels were never accurate. They were projections born from discomfort. Your presence mirrored truths others were not ready to face within themselves. And when truth makes people uncomfortable, misunderstanding becomes their defense. Chosen one, the pain was never about rejection. It was about alignment. As your awareness grew, your energy began to expose what was false, shallow, or unresolved around you. To some, your silence felt like judgment. To others, your growth felt like abandonment. But in reality, you were simply responding to an inner calling that could no longer be ignored. One of the hardest lessons on the chosen path is learning that not everyone is meant to understand you. Some souls are meant to walk beside you. Others are meant to learn from you at a distance. And some are only meant to know the version of you that helped awaken who you are now. When you tried to make everyone understand you, you drained yourself. When you stopped explaining, you began to heal. Being misunderstood is also divine protection. The divine does not reveal your full depth to everyone because not everyone would honor it. Some would distort it. Some would misuse it. Some would try to diminish it. So your truth remained hidden behind silence, misunderstood by many but guarded by the divine. This is why your journey has often felt private, even when lived in plain sight. You were tested in this season. The test was not whether others would approve of you. The test was whether you would still trust yourself when no one clapped, no one validated you, and no one confirmed your truth. Would you continue walking your path even when it felt lonely? Would you continue speaking the truth even when your voice trembled? That is the trial of the chosen one. History has always followed this pattern. Every prophet, visionary, and awakened soul was misunderstood before they were recognized. Their silence was questioned. Their motives were doubted. Their wisdom was dismissed. Yet time revealed what the moment could not. The same is unfolding in your life. Chosen one, do not allow misunderstanding to harden your heart. Let it refine your compassion, not steal your softness. You are not here to convince the world of your worth. You are here to embody truth so fully that explanation becomes unnecessary. One day, those who could not understand your silence will recognize your wisdom. Until then, walk with peace. Being misunderstood was never your burden. It was the sign that you were aligned with something higher. Chosen one, solitude was never meant to be your enemy. It was your initiation. The moment the world grew quiet around you, the real work began. What felt like isolation was actually divine incubation. The divine did not pull you away from others to abandon you, but to transform you. In the absence of noise, distraction, and external influence, your soul was finally given the space it needed to evolve. When everything familiar was stripped away, you were left with yourself. No masks, no roles, no expectations to perform or please. Just you and the silence. At first, that silence felt heavy. The nights felt long. Thoughts you had buried began to surface. Emotions you had avoided demanded to be felt. This was not punishment. This was purification. Solitude forces truth to rise because there is nowhere left to hide. In this season, you began to unlearn. You started to see how much of your identity was built on survival instead of purpose. How often you shaped yourself to fit in, to keep peace, to be accepted. In solitude, those patterns could no longer survive. Without an audience, false versions of the self fall away. What remains is authenticity. The loneliness you experienced was the slow death of the ego. The part of you that needed approval, validation, and reassurance was being dismantled. That process hurts because the ego mistakes discomfort for danger. But what was truly happening was liberation. You were learning how to stand without leaning, how to trust without proof, how to be whole without external confirmation. In solitude, your relationship with the divine deepened. When no one else was listening, you learned to listen inward. When no one else was guiding you, you learned to follow intuition. When no one else supported you, you discovered inner strength you did not know you had. You realized you were never truly alone. The divine had been walking beside you in every silent moment, waiting for you to notice. This is where spiritual strength is built. Solitude is the gym of the soul. It trains resilience, patience, discernment, and faith. Every quiet day strengthened your ability to sit with uncertainty. Every silent night taught you to self-soothe instead of escape. You stopped running from yourself and began to meet yourself fully, honestly, and without judgment. Transformation in solitude is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you have always been beneath fear, conditioning, and expectation. In the stillness, your spirit began to speak, not loudly but clearly. You started to feel aligned in ways that did not need explanation. Peace slowly replaced anxiety. Clarity softened confusion. Inner knowing replaced doubt. Your energy began to shift. You moved more intentionally. You spoke less, but with more truth. You no longer chased attention because presence became enough. You no longer feared being alone because solitude became sacred. You realized that the quiet was not empty. It was full of guidance, healing, and wisdom. Chosen one, this transformation could not have happened in a crowd. It required stillness. It required surrender. It required solitude. The person you are becoming was shaped in silence, forged in introspection, and strengthened in isolation. And because of that, what you are emerging into now is unshakable. Chosen one of the deepest truths you are now beginning to understand is that nothing in your life happened out of order. Every delay, every loss, every closed door unfolded according to divine timing. What once felt like chaos was actually orchestration. The divine was not working against you, it was aligning you. There were moments you prayed for things that never came. People you wanted to stay were removed. Opportunities that looked perfect dissolved without explanation. At the time, it felt like rejection, but in truth, it was redirection. The divine sees what you cannot see. Some blessings arriving too early would have distracted you. Some relationships would have drained you. Some doors, if opened, would have led you away from your true calling. Divine timing does not operate on urgency. It operates on readiness. While your mind wanted answers, your spirit needed preparation. The waiting, the silence, the uncertainty were not wasted time. They were shaping your capacity. You were being strengthened so that when the blessing arrived, it would not overwhelm you or pull you off balance. Realignment often requires interruption. When your path drifted away from your true purpose, the divine intervened. Plans fell apart. Paths ended abruptly. Life pressed pause. You may have called it delay, but it was divine correction. The divine will not allow a chosen one to settle in places that contradict their destiny. As your awareness expanded, you became more sensitive to misalignment. You felt drained in spaces that once felt comfortable. You sensed discomfort around people who no longer resonated. This was your soul signaling that something was out of tune. And when misalignment persists, the divine responds by removing what you are too attached to release on your own. This is why walking alone was necessary. It was a recalibration, a return to center. In isolation, your energy reset, your desires refined, your priorities shifted. You stopped chasing what looked good and started honoring what felt true. Alignment replaced ambition. Peace replaced urgency. Divine timing also reveals divine protection. Many of the delays you resented were acts of mercy. Some storms were avoided because a door stayed closed. Some heartbreaks were prevented because a path ended early. Every unanswered prayer carried hidden protection within it. Now you are learning to trust the flow instead of forcing outcomes. What is meant for you no longer requires struggle. When alignment is restored, things begin to move effortlessly. The right people recognize you. The right opportunities find you. You are no longer chasing. You are attracting. Chosen one, you are not behind. You were never late. You are exactly where you need to be. Divine timing does not measure progress by speed. It measures it by alignment. And now everything is quietly positioning itself to meet you at the right moment. Chosen one, there comes a sacred turning point in solitude when isolation stops feeling like punishment and begins to feel like peace. This is the moment when silence starts to speak. What once felt empty becomes full of meaning. The loneliness that once broke you begins to reveal wisdom that reshapes you. This is when isolation transforms into revelation. At first, you questioned everything. You wondered why you had to lose so much, why your path felt so different, why no one seemed to truly understand you. But as the noise faded and your inner world grew quieter, clarity slowly emerged. Patterns became visible, lessons made sense. What once felt like chaos revealed its divine order. You began to see that nothing was random. Revelation does not arrive through crowds or constant stimulation. It comes through stillness. In silence, you stop absorbing the emotions, opinions, and fears of others. You begin to sense your own energy clearly. Your intuition becomes louder because it is no longer competing with external voices. The same silence that once scared you becomes sacred ground. In this phase, you develop spiritual discernment. You no longer need explanations or proof to feel truth. You recognize alignment instantly and sense misalignment just as clearly. Your awareness sharpens. Your perception deepens. You begin to trust the inner guidance that has always been with you. The divine was never distant. It was waiting for your stillness. Isolation also brings healing. Old wounds surface not to hurt you again, but to be released. Forgiveness becomes less about others and more about your freedom. You stop seeking closure from people who cannot give it. Peace no longer depends on understanding or validation. You find wholeness within yourself. This revelation reconnects you with your divine identity. You begin to see yourself the way the Creator sees you: purposeful, resilient, and guided. You remember that you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to awaken. The time you spent alone was your spiritual training ground. Every tear strengthened your discernment. Every quiet night deepened your wisdom. As revelation settles in, your energy changes. You move with quiet confidence. You stop chasing what left and stop fearing what may come. Gratitude replaces confusion. Faith replaces fear. You begin to recognize divine signs, synchronicities, and confirmations that reassure you that you are aligned. Chosen one, honor this season. Do not rush out of your solitude just because it feels quiet. That quiet is sacred. It is where your foundation was built. When you step back into the world, you will do so with clarity, authority, and peace. Your isolation was never a detour. It was your divine classroom, and the wisdom it gives you will guide every step forward. Chosen one, as you reflect on the road you have traveled, it becomes clear that walking alone was never a sign of abandonment. It was a sign of calling. Every moment of silence, every season of isolation, every step taken without reassurance was shaping you into who you were always meant to become. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as preparation. What once felt unfair now reveals its divine purpose. You were separated not to be weakened, but to be strengthened. The path you walked required courage, endurance, and faith that could not be learned in comfort or crowds. While others were distracted, you were being refined. While others were conforming, you were remembering. The solitude you endured carved depth into your spirit and clarity into your vision. It taught you how to trust the divine even when answers were not immediate. Now you understand that not everyone was meant to walk with you forever. Some people were part of a season, not a lifetime. Their departure was not a failure on your part, nor was it punishment. It was an alignment. Holding on would have delayed your growth. Letting go allows you to rise. What left made room for what is meant to arrive. You are no longer the same person who first entered this season. You carry wisdom instead of confusion. You carry peace instead of fear. You carry discernment instead of doubt. The loneliness that once questioned your worth has been replaced by a quiet knowing of who you are. You no longer need to be understood by everyone. You understand yourself, and that is enough. The divine does not reveal the chosen path to many because not many are willing to walk it. You walked it anyway, even when your heart was heavy, even when your strength felt thin, even when the road felt endless. That endurance is sacred. That faith is rare. That journey has marked you. As you step forward now, you do so with alignment. The next chapter of your life will not require you to chase or force what is meant for you. What belongs to you will recognize you. The right connections will meet you in truth, not illusion. The peace you cultivated in solitude will become your foundation in the world. Chosen one, honor the road you walked. It was not easy, but it was necessary. You were never meant to blend in, and you were never meant to be cared. And now you walk forward not in loneliness, but in purpose.